Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. And in this video, we're going to be talking about a $6,000 gaming / productivity setup. $6,000 including the actual monitor and the PC rig itself. Now, in terms of the PC rig, it's going to be a very powerful and special one. It's going to contain the Ryzen Threadripper 1950X CPU. It has 16 physical cores with 32 threads. We're going to have also in this PC two GTX 1080 Ti's in SLI configuration, and the monitor that we're going to be using is a 38-inch curved ultra widescreen display from LG. It has a native resolution of 3840 by 1600. So a lot of stuff over here. We're going to take a look at the actual benchmarks for the CPU itself and see how the 1950X compares against some CPUs from Intel and some lower budget AMD chips, and we're going to obviously see how a 38-inch ultra widescreen gaming experience is going to be with two GTX 1080 Ti's in SLI configuration. So if you're interested, let's get right into it. Now, this monster of a PC is going to be based around the AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X. It's a 16-core chip with 32 threads. It retails for just under $1,000 USD, which is certainly not the most cheapest CPU you can get, but considering Intel's Core i9-7960X, which is also a 16-core 32-thread CPU, retails for about $1,800, almost $800 more than the 1950X from AMD. So AMD is certainly giving you a little bit more bang for the dollar considering the Intel counterpart. Additionally, in terms of core frequencies, the 1950X is set to 3.4 gigahertz, and it can precision boost up to 4 gigahertz. In addition to that, it also has 200 megahertz of XFR, so it can potentially boost up to 4.2 gigahertz at a stock setting. But if you do decide to overclock, because it does have an unlocked multiplier, you can go way beyond there if you have some extreme water cooling capabilities. In terms of cache, we have 40 megabytes in total, comprised of 32 megabytes of level 3, 8 megabytes of level 2, and 1 megabyte of level 1. You also have a 60 PCI Express 3.0 lanes, so plenty of bandwidth for high performance multiple GPU setups. You also have quad channel DDR4 memory, so there's plenty of room for any kind of server or a workstation grade PC that you're gonna eventually upgrade into using this platform. Now, just like the CPUs, the AMD X399 chipset is extremely versatile and powerful. We're going to be using the X399 Designer EX from Gigabyte. This is probably one of the most fully featured X399 platforms that you're going to get. It supports pretty much all of the current modern connection interfaces in terms of USB 3.1, USB Type-C, triple channel ultra-fast M.2 connectivity, plenty of PCIe slots since Threadripper has that incredible PCI Express bandwidth. No wonder you see so many slots over here for multiple GPU setups. The build quality from the fit and finish to the server grade chokes, and you can see that it actually has built-in IO shield, as well as the backplate is comprised of this really high grade aluminum material, which is going to make sure that the motherboard runs a little bit cooler, there's better heat dissipation, and it definitely makes the motherboard look more premium than your average board that you're going to find out there. Now, moving forward, in terms of graphics cards, we're going to go a little bit overboard. We're going to use two GTX 1080 Ti's in SLI configuration. Again, this might be a little bit overkill for most games out there, but since we're going to be using a fairly high resolution ultra widescreen monitor, the more graphics horsepower we have, the better our gaming experience will be for most titles out there that support SLI configuration. You could definitely do with one GTX 1080 Ti. It's more than powerful enough for even 4K gaming, but having two is always cooler, and definitely will give you a little bit edge in terms of performance. Now, in terms of storage, just for the build for now, I'm going to be using the Evo 960 500 gigabyte M.2 drive. Should be fine for just our needs right now. The cooler, we're going to be using the Corsair H100i version 2. Now, keep in mind that the Threadripper bracket actually comes with the processor itself, so you can actually use that adapter, and there's a list of current coolers that are compatible with the TR our socket. So, but keep in mind that the actual adapter comes with the CPU, but installation is fairly straightforward and simple. It's a very secure fit from the motherboard socket to the cooler itself. Now, in terms of RAM, I don't have a lot of memory right now, but I'm going to add more in the future. Currently, I'm using the Guile Evo X 16GB DDR4 memory, and then I have thrown in another 16GB of HyperX memory. Both are around at the same clock speed at 2600 megahertz, which is specific to the Threadripper platform. Now, last but not least, in terms of power supply and case, I'm using the Evo Supernova 1000 watt G3 80 plus gold certified fully modular PSU to power everything. Should be more than enough for everything that we have over here. And for the case, I want to showcase the parts that we're using. So I'm using the Corsair 570X. It has tempered glass finish throughout pretty much every panel, so it showcases your internal components very nicely. It has some cool RGB lighting effects at the front, plenty of good airflow generally speaking, but mainly I chose this case for the amazing build quality and the fact that it's going to kind of display everything inside in a fairly nice and elegant manner. Now, the monitor is specifically the LG38 UC99W. It's a 38-inch 21:9 curved ultra-wide screen monitor. It has a native resolution of 3840 by 1600, which is just shy of the Ultra HD standard, but it is more than the typical 34-inch ultra-wide screen displays, which are very popular, which have a vertical resolution of 1440 compared to 1600. Both have the same horizontal resolution from the 4K standard, which is a 3840. So it is a very high resolution display, and it looks absolutely amazing. 38 inches, 4 more inches than standard kind of ultra widescreen monitors, definitely makes a big difference. You're going to need a larger desk for sure, but having a display at this size and this resolution definitely eliminates the need to have multiple desktop monitors, especially if you do a lot of productivity work. The other nice thing is you don't really need to use any scaling options, unlike some of the 4K monitors, which look way too small if you go with a 1:1 100% scaling. So that's really nice, and a lot of apps typically don't enable some of the scaling capabilities you have in Windows right now, so definitely a convenient factor there. The refresh rate is 60 Hz standard. It can go up to 75 with a FreeSync enabled GPU from AMD. Unfortunately, we have NVIDIA GPU, so we can't really use that, but 60 Hz is fine for my purpose, since it's mostly going to be for productivity reasons, and most of our games are going to be running in the 60 frames per second anyway, since we're going to have all the details kind of turned up. It's a very bright display, 300 CDM squared. It does have a built-in Bluetooth speakers inside, 10 watts each from left to right, which is definitely a convenient factor. A decent amount of connectivity options, including USB Type-C interface, as well as DisplayPort and HDMI 2.0. Now, just for you guys that are interested, the total cost for this setup was around $58.74, not including the operating system. So if you want to add another $120 or so, you're just under shy of $6,000 for the PC and the monitor. So definitely not a cheap economical setup, but one that is super premium. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the CPU performance results. And what we're going to do is actually do a comparison between some of the other popular kind of high-end CPU platforms. So we're going to compare the 1950X setup that we have over here to the Intel 7820X, as well as the Ryzen 7 1800X chip. Both are 8 cores with 16 threads. So Cinebench R15 on the multi-core performance results, we got just under shy 3,000 points on our Threadripper, and in terms of single core performance, we got about 168, and that definitely beats out the other two processors, with the Intel coming in second place and the 1800X coming in third place, both fairly respectable scores, of course. Now, Geekbench 4, again, very similar results, about 33,000 points in terms of the multi-core performance, and about 4,500 points in terms of the single-core performance. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that in terms of the single-core performance, the that Intel 7820X is actually beating out both of the AMD chips. Keep in mind, for gaming application purposes, most likely all three of these chips are going to perform very similar, if not the Intel being a little bit more optimized for some of the games that utilize more better single core performance than multi-core performance. Now, speaking of the gaming performance, here we're going to take a look at the gaming benchmark results. Now, all of the gaming titles were actually rendered out in 3840 by 1600 based on the native resolution of our 38-inch ultra widescreen monitor, but the TimeSpy benchmark is a standardized test, so I believe it uses quad HD resolution, and we get a graphics score about 15,000 points roughly there. The Unigen's Valley benchmark, which is another synthetic test, we rendered out 3840 by 1600 ultra details, and we get 98.1 average frames per second. And the other gaming titles are more real-world examples of average frames per second, with pretty much all the detail settings maxed out to ultra. So there are your results over there if you're interested in the specific resolution and how they kind of perform in the SLI configuration with two GTX 1080 Ti's. But other than that, guys, that's really it. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Without your guys' support, none of this would be possible at all. And if you're interested in some of the parts that we use and maybe want to build your own PC like this, check out the description down below. And if you use any of our links, it gives us a little bit of kickback and it helps support the channel, keeps this whole thing afloat. Without you guys, again, none of this would be possible. So thank you again for your support. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you've done so already. A lot of cool content on the way, including smartphone reviews and comparisons, and plenty of PC and camera hardware reviews as well. So thank you again for the support. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.